So today we are changing the transmission fluid and filter in a 2000 Jeep Wrangler Sahara. It's probably going to be the biggest single project of tuning it up. So symptoms that I've been having are transmission will engage after a cold start. It'll jump, it'll rev up kind of like almost like it has some insane turbo on it, or like a stall converter really. You know, you'll rev it up till, put your foot on the accelerator, don't go anywhere, rev it up till 3,500 RPM, then it just decides, oh well, I guess I'll go now, and then you're like, oh, and then you take off, and that's not really cool. So so it'll do stuff like that. You put it in reverse, as soon as you start up or something like that, it'll stall. Those are the types of symptoms I've been having, and after reading up on different forums, I figured out that it's most likely the filter, the transmission fluid filter needs changed. And this does take, once you drop the pan, it's going to drop out all the ATF, all the fluid. So you're going to need to completely refill the system again, and that'll be about 2 gallons. 2 gallons of ATF plus 4 is what Chrysler intends on these things. It was plus 3 from the factory, but apparently they don't make that anymore, so plus 4 is a suitable replacement. I just have off-brand O'Reilly ATF plus 4 to try it out, and I got the filter from O'Reilly's as well, and the filters actually end up looking something like this. Looks like a wafer that's held in by like 3 screws that you can see there. They also give you, in the same package, they give you 2 gaskets to go in between the pan that you're going to drop and the transmission. So it seems like it's relatively simple in idea, in case you're trying to find yours from O'Reilly as well. This is the automatic transmission filter kit. The model number is FK119, and the brand is Power Torque. So I guess getting into the actual change itself, you're going to need to drop the transmission pan. This is how you're going to do this. You're going to find that oil pan for the transmission, which, God, it's so hard to see on these little GoPros. Right here. And then you're just going to look straight back, and I would say 6 inches behind it, you know, there's behind the drain plug for the engine, there's your oil pan. So I know a lot of this is black, so it's hard to see, but you can only see half of the oil pan, and here's the main problem with changing these things is, back out here, there's a skid plate, big ass skid plate right here, and this skid plate covers half of the oil pan. Now it's not flush, obviously. I've got about a good, 4 fingers of depth in here in between the oil pan and the skid plate. But the problem therein lies with the other bolts that are on the skid plate. They're back here up underneath this. I mean, the other bolts that are on the oil pan, they're back up underneath this skid plate, or sorry, above the skid plate. So what you need to do is, you can't really remove these skid plates because these bolts are gigantic, and they're just, you need to be on a lift, and they probably have Loctite on them, I'm told, so let's just not deal with that. So these are 1/2-inch bolts. I'm using a 1/2-inch socket on them with a 3/8 drive wrench, ratchet. So to get those bolts up in there, I'm just using a deep socket with no extension. And it's going to be kind of tough, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to hit those first, take those out, all the ones up under above the skid plate, and then get the easily accessible ones afterwards. Now the reason I'm doing that is because as soon as the last bolt starts to get loose on this thing, it's going to want to just shoot out all that ATF everywhere. And that brings me to another important point when you're doing this, is you're going to want, it's possible that it could shoot out all the 2 gallons of of ATF. So you're going to want to get something that can hold at least 2 gallons. Right here, I got this from O'Reilly's. It's like an 8-gallon holding jug thing, drain pan deal. So, you know, just make sure you have that underneath that, so that when the pan comes off and it just shoots out all the ATF, it'll go straight down into this. And I have that on top of another simple pan just to catch like some overrun spillage if that's necessary. Just extra precaution. This is going to be a very, very messy job. Also, as you can see, as usual, I'm wearing my gloves. You'd probably do better to wear longer gloves. Once these start to get loose, tilt it a little bit to try to, you know, I'll have this pushed out further that way, but tilt it back this way a little bit to try to drain, encourage it to drain out, leak out this way first before you just drop the whole entire thing and it just goes everywhere into a giant mess. So it'd be a lot easier to just drain a little bit that way. Then, you know, once it's really died down, then you can drop the whole entire thing. I have removed all bolts. Like I said, they're 1/2 inch. There are 4 up here. You know what? I'm just gonna get a flashlight for you guys. Up above the skid plate, there are, let's see if we can see here. Up underneath here, there are exactly 4 bolts. There's one there at the corner. I feel another one, and then there's one as it turns the corner over there. That one's not so bad at all. I told you guys I was going to use the deep socket on these. I used the deep socket on the first one. The second one, it's just too far up in there to use a deep socket, so you have to use actually just a normal socket. I was able to clear it with just a normal socket with my 3/4 or 3/8 inch drive ratchet and a normal 1/2 inch socket. That's it. And I was able to get all 3 of those. I switched back to an extension bar after it came around the side here, just to make it easier on my hands. Quickly took all these off, came back around, and that is the, wow, I didn't even see that bolt. Okay, that's the last bolt right there. And it looks like I'm either going to use a deep socket or just a normal socket again. No extension because of the skid plate. I just dropped the pan. Surprisingly, it was not nearly as messy as I thought it was going to be. Some light up in there. As soon as I started taking off that last bolt right over here, it just started to really tip out over here and really you know, start draining. So I let it sit there and drain for, you know, a minute, and it just gushed out this area, and then I kept on untightening this one here, and that's about it. And then it just came out. It wasn't nearly not nearly like 2 gallons like I thought it was gonna be. So here's the pan with the lovely ATF residue in there, and that right there is what we're changing. This nasty, disgusting transmission fluid filter. It is held on by 3 Torx screws. There's your Torx bolts. They are T25 Torx bolts. There's 3 of them, and they're really, you don't even have to undo them that much. It was quite shocking actually. They were so loose in there. I just, one thing to loosen them, one, you know, half turn, full turn to loosen them, and then I just unscrewed them all with my hand. They're all about the same amount of torque on them. And then this guy, is the problem. Look at that. Look at that disgusting thing. I recommend taking the left bolt, right bolt, or right bolt, left bolt, the 2 outside bolts first. Then with your hand, you know, or with your screwdriver, loosen this one, put your screwdriver away, start loosening it with one hand until you'll start to feel this whole thing come out. And as soon as this one gets loosened and this whole plate wants to start to fall out, another gush of your ATF is going to come out. This is gross. This is almost like vestigial organs or some nasty shit. Filter installed. There you can see the 3 T25 torque screws in there. Put them down a little bit tighter this time. You know, thinking maybe that was part of the problem. I'm not sure. But definitely new filter will help. So there you have it. There's the new filter. But we're going to take that pan, drag it out here. Ugh. We're going to scrape the remains off this gasket off of the pan. And then we are going to install a new gasket. Pretty much just a disgusting old gasket. And I'm going to lay it out like this so I know the orientation of it. And, okay, yeah, we're going to scrape some of that sealant off there. Clean out this pan. Okay. This is the pan after a nice spray clean from the hose around the side of the house. There was a lot of residue here, gray residue of the sealant that they used for the gasket that's going to go on here. So I just went ahead, I grabbed my scraper, and I just got to scrape it all off real nice and good, and then you know, just kicked it back off into the pan. Now the other thing that you'll notice is right here, this area, this uncolored area, is for this magnet. This magnet catches all the residual little metal bits that get ground out. The whole reason for, you know, having a filtration system, well, this catches all the metal fragments that end up down in the pan, so they don't, you know, further screw up your transmission. So make sure you take that out real well and clean that off, because it's going to have all these little metal particulates on it. So I went around the side of the house, sprayed that as well. So now it's just a matter of putting on a little bit more liquid gasket, or liquid sealant rather, gasket sealant. You just need to use an oil soluble grease for the gasket, and then you put one of these new gaskets on that they give you with the filter change kit. I just spread the new gasket on here, gasket sealant, sorry, and I just used straight up Felpro. Oh wait, I think this is Felpro. I'm actually not sure. I'll check on that. Don't quote me on that. It's not Felpro. Just gasket sealant type 1, or sorry, it's VersaChem that I had originally bought for intake manifold gaskets on my Plymouth. So now that I have this just spread on there, and it's like cake icing, I'm just gonna take this and pop it on there. Apparently this is also supposed to help the oh man, shoot. This is also supposed to help the do I even have this? That's not the gasket for my pan, dog. Oh, this one is. Okay. Guess they give you two different kinds. Probably for the other transmission. I'm just going to plop this guy on there. Like I was saying, this is also supposed to keep the gasket in place, the actual gasket in place, while you refit this pan all up in Jeep's transmission. So that's good. Make sure the holes line up, as they do on mine, thank God. That other one was actually scaring me quite a bit there, but definitely have a little bit of play on this thing. Not too much. Good stuff. Alright, I just want to make sure that's nice and down, good and tight. Clean up this sealant around the inside edge. Make sure that it's making a seal there from the pan to the gasket. Also, you just don't want too much of this stuff falling around, because even though it will dry hard, that's just another particulate in your system there. Change my gloves again, and then reinstall this pan. That should be all there is to it. I will get back to you after I'm done that. Okay, so I just finished bolting up the pan, and I will show you guys this. So it is fully bolted up there now. I started actually with this one right here and tightened it down pretty well. That way I was able to at least get it up there while I could start working on the other ones. Now initially I wanted to work right on those back tough ones to get up above the skid plate, but what I did first was, after I tightened that one down, I got these up here relatively tight because they're very easy to get on. Then it would allow me to hold this up more steady so I could get those pesky ones in the back. And the back ones, let me just say, yes, they are a pain, a total pain, but as long as you take all the time you need, especially having this gunk on there now, having the gasket sealant, it makes it very tough sometimes to get those finger tight in there first. Like, you really have to, it would be ideal if you used an awl to punch out a hole, or like me, I have an awl, but I don't have a short enough one to get up underneath above that skid plate in between there. So I really just had to poke them through as best as I could, multiple different angles, you know, with my finger, trying to get the bolt up in there and started just with my fingers, because trying to get it started with the ratchet on there is not going to happen. So take your time on those. They'll be pesky, but you'll get through it. Here probably took me 40 minutes to get it all back on there, because a lot of fitting, you know, you don't want to, the gasket's still loose, and you know, you don't want it to like slide around, but you have to slide around kind of to get your fittings in there with the bolts. So that's about it. I'm going to pop the hood and start filling that up. In the engine bay here, and it's hard to find at first, but the filler place for the ATF is actually right behind the engine oil dipstick. So here's your straight 6, here's your engine oil dipstick. Right behind that, you see this little gear here. That's your transmission fluid filler. Now it's a very thin hole, so slide that guy in there. Then you're going to take your ATF plus 4 automatic transmission fluid and just pour it up in there. Our refill is 2 gallons, so I have a gallon jug here and a gallon jug there. I didn't see any on the stick at all, so because that was another problem before I changed the filter. There was leaking. Probably put a gallon in there, check it, turn on the car, let it hot and idle, let it get hot and in idling, neutral, and then like it says to do on the dipstick here, and then I'll check the level and add as I need. Then I'm going to go for a drive to make sure that I have fixed the problem. Anyways, something to remember as you're filling up any liquid in your car, specifically oils, whether it be engine or whatever, you definitely want to periodically, as you're filling up, check below the car to make sure that you don't see any, and this is all from earlier, so I know that's good, you don't see any dripping or oozing out. I learned that the hard way, filling up the engine oil with brand new nice royal purple in the Chevelle one day, and you know, I just saw it start to seep out from the bottom, just out towards my shoes, and it was a gigantic mess. It was horrible, and it was because I didn't have a good seal on the oil filter. So always check that. Well, that's about it. Totally fixed the problem. So to recap, the symptoms I had were, you know, misshifting, acting like it had a stall converter, i.e. you're at a stop, you give it gas because you're in drive, doesn't do anything, revs up, and then finally goes. That kind of stuff, or just idling and then dying at a stoplight, stuff like that, your engine cutting off. That's all the transmission. And the problem is really the filter. So you need to change your filter and fill it back up with ATF plus 4 if you have a 4-liter, 2000 era Jeep Wrangler. Totally, I mean, it drives like a brand new Jeep. I was thinking that at first when that started happening, I thought I needed a new transmission or at least a rebuild. Considered even going manual, which would be cooler, but still, if you just want to fix it, man, that's what you got to do. So that's that, and yeah, please just leave your comments below, or if you have any other questions about sizing or anything like that, how I did something, please just leave a comment in the comments below and I will definitely get back to you. Thank you.